Innovative, gripping, and highly engaging are all phrases that you would associate with Capcom's 2012 hit, Dragon's Dogma. It's therefore no surprise that fans of the title are eagerly awaiting the arrival of its sequel. In today's video, I'll be diving into the details around the combat system, vocations, pawn system, and the rich open world of mythological and fantastical creatures of my most anticipated game of 2024, Dragon's Dogma 2. So without any further ado, let's get into it. First off, mark your calendars for March 22nd. Book some time off work. Tell your loved ones, tell your friends they won't be seeing you for a while. This is the official release date for Dragon's Dogma 2. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Dragon's Dogma 2 is the highly anticipated sequel to the 2012 game Dragon's Dogma. Known for its outstanding combat system and party-based pawn system, the first game garnered somewhat of a cult following status. Funnily enough, it didn't actually do as well as expected, and it certainly feels like as time has passed, it has gained more and more recognition from RPG gamer aficionados, and rightly so. The game itself still holds its own even 12 years after its initial release. An innovative combat system, compelling storyline, an incredibly well implemented pawn system are all areas which have ensured that this game is held with high regard. With the second installment, Capcom aims to bring these standout features to a wider audience. When discussing DD2's combat system, I think it's really important to reflect upon its humble beginnings. DD1's combat system is perhaps the most engaging combat system that I've ever had the pleasure of using. It's incredibly intuitive and certainly one of the main hooks that grabs you when you first start playing the game. DD2 appears to maintain the series' stellar combat system, albeit in a slightly simplified manner in comparison to the first game. Mobility skills that were acquired from learned skills in the original game appear to be baked into characters' standard setup. Characters have a basic jump and dash ability bound to buttons automatically, and I think this is a pretty good change. I always strive to have mobility skills to traverse maps and combat situations, and I think that this will encourage a faster, more fluid playstyle in DD2. Other mainstays such as a grab function, cliff launching anyone, and vocation and weapon abilities are also tied to different buttons, and are done so in a way which feels really responsive and rewarding to play. The stamina system from DD1 has made a return, and one which you must be hyper aware of. This adds another additional layer of depth to your combat strategy. If you don't, you end up exhausted and open yourself up to being attacked without being able to defend and reposition yourself. The ability to climb on and brutally shank and mutilate larger enemies, targeting their weak spots, is also highly successful at making the combat feel nuanced and engaging. It's no surprise, therefore, that DD2 will include this. If you've not played DD1 and you have any experience with Monster Hunter, do yourself a favour, folks. Play this game before DD2 releases. You will feel right at home. It's clear to see the benefits the development of the game gained from having Monster Hunter developers on the team. From observing the gameplay footage we've been shown, it appears that Capcom are opting to keep the vocations linked solely to a single weapon in DD2. This differs from DD1, in which you could in some instances have your character use two weapons which you could switch between on the fly by simply pressing LB and RB on the controller. This again nods towards a more simplified approach, which I'm slightly disappointed about. I feel like having the opportunity to dictate how complex you make your builds and rotations should be an option that we have, but with that being said, I'm purely speculating here, and I'm sure Capcom know what they're doing. Classes in Dragon's Dogma are referred to as vocations, and we've been shown an exciting variety of these in the first instance. A total of 9 are available. 4 of these 9 are starter vocations and include the Fighter, Archer, Thief, and Mage. Each one of these fulfills the usual trope you'd expect. The Fighter is your classic sword and board melee combat frontliner that excels when played in the faces of your enemies. The Archer is the classic Ranger-style character, relying on dead-eye accurate barrages of arrows to fell their enemies. The Mage is a caster of the group and utilises staves to either aid the party in supportive manners by offering healing, buffs, and cleansing abilities, or deploying destructive carnage through the use of elements. Finally, the Thief is much like the rogue archetype that you come across in games. Think dual-wielding daggers, high mobility, and lethal amounts of damage at the cost of defensive ability. I had an absolute blast playing the Strider in DD1, and I'm currently doing a playthrough with one on Twitch at the moment. You can catch me every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7 PM GMT or 2 PM EST for my friends over on the other side of the pond. The link to the channel is in the description. Pop along and say hi. Same as DD1, the mountain system, you climb on, you start shanking and stabbing and...
What are you talking about, Willis?
Advanced and hybrid vocations are where it starts to get really interesting. In DD1, you have the ability to combine different vocations together to create a unique spin on your base class. For example, when you take the Strider and the Fighter class and match them together, you get yourself an Assassin. This leans into becoming a dual-wielding master, whilst maintaining the defensive abilities akin to those of the Fighter class. I'm happy to report that this approach is also present in DD2, and I'm really hoping that players can freely switch between these vocations at specific NPCs in the game, allowing for a dynamic and versatile gameplay experience, much like we had in DD1. One of the biggest selling points for me in that game was also the fact that you can do this so easily, so you can actually try everything out. You're not kind of locked into one thing, and I think that's really important for the longevity of the game. In DD2, we have 5 hybrid vocations. These are Warrior, Mystic Spearhead, Sorcerer, Magic Archer, and Trickster. Warrior is a tanky, two-handed, weapon-wielding powerhouse, slow but methodical and incredibly punchy. This is probably one for those of us who enjoy finding those attack windows to deal massive damage. Trickster is a conjurer of sorts. It really reminds me actually of the Mesmer from Guild Wars, using illusions, creating deception and confusion as a weapon. Pretty cool. They also buff pawns' abilities. Unfortunately, only the player can be this vocation. No pawns allowed. The Mystic Spearhead is again limited to players only, and this combines melee and magic, making it a highly versatile combatant. It uses the Duo Spear and reminds me a bit of the monk-style character or the Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter. The Magic Archer excels in long-ranged attack styles that imbue arrows with magic attacks, and the Sorcerer is a more offensive version of the Mage, which is more of a supportive style of caster. As we approach the release date, I'm going to be covering these in much more detail, so subscribe to the channel to keep informed. The other unique features of Dragon's Dogma is the pawn system. This will also be built upon in DD2. Pawns are hireable NPC allies, and you can have up to 3 of them accompanying you. Your main pawn is customizable and levels with you, while the other 2 are more disposable, requiring periodic swapping for higher level pawns. Pawns from other players can be hired, adding a collaborative element to the single player experience. And one of the standout features of this game and this franchise in general is that you can actually use other players' pawns via an area called the Rift. You can share specific pawns with your friends, which I think is an excellent feature. It's important that you don't sleep on this system. Creating a strong and synergistic party is integral to your success, and it's really great for those of us who like to really think about how things synergize and click together. So for example, you might have a party that is lacking a front liner like a fighter or a warrior, and you're playing quite a heavily ranged composition. You need that fighter to kind of get in the enemy's faces and control the battle from the front side and almost be a tank in that sense. Perhaps one of the most impressive things about this franchise is just how expansive and epic and rich the world is. Dragon's Dogma 2 boasts of a really expansive open world, reportedly 4 times the size of the first game. The world appears to be mostly seamless with a day and night cycle, a day in the life of NPCs, and an in-depth map contributes to the immersion of the experience. Even DD1, 12 years of age, feels incredibly immersive and ahead of its time. Recently picked this game up again, and it still stands up against modern games. You are really taken by the level of detail and just the general expansiveness of the whole experience. I'm really excited to experience what should be a clear upgrade in DD2. DD2 is a game rich in mythological and fantastical aesthetics. Players will encounter various creatures, from absolutely epic looking giants, they actually named it Talos in the reveal, which we saw emerge from the sea, to goblins, harpies and more. One thing is for sure, there will be no shortage of mob diversity throughout a playthrough, and I really can't wait to explore this rich world, experience the captivating story, and delve into the deep combat mechanics. If you're interested in seeing a more in-depth breakdown of how each base class will play, check out this video where I give my own insights into the recent gameplay footage we've been given to take a look into. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.